Welcome to the Hockey Writers Blackhawks Banter, a weekly show with our top Chicago Blackhawks writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from Chelsea Dagger to the Madhouse on Madison, our team covers everything that happens with the Hawks. So get comfortable, grab a beverage. It's time for some Blackhawks Banter. Blackhawks Banter.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the new episode of Blackhawks Banter presented by the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Greg Boyson, feeling better, back at it, and I'm joined with my line mates, Gail Kowchuk and Brooke LaForno. Ladies, how we doing tonight?
All right. Well.
Good. This is our 64th episode of Blackhawks Banter, the David Kampf episode. A little shout out to the 2 weeks that Gail was an NHL agent and her very first client. So we're dedicating this to your one of your favorite former Blackhawks. But before we get into our big discussions this week, despite there being only really one game of consequence played since we last got together, we've got a lot to talk about. But before we get into that, I just want to mention that this week's episode of Blackhawks Banter is being brought to you by the Hockey Writers Olympic coverage. We've got a lot of great stuff going on. We've got great writing teams covering both the men and women's tournament. The tournament is already on their way. We've got a lot of great recaps. There's some preview posts in there as well, so you can get to know some of these teams playing. And we got a great crew already doing the coverage as that women's tournament has been going off for a couple of days now. The men's tournament's going to start later this week. We've got previews and rosters for all the teams there as well. I just put out a post yesterday, 5 reasons for Blackhawks and IceHawks fans to watch the men's Olympics. Lots of familiar names and faces playing in the men's tournament. So check us out over at thehockeywriters.com. Find the Olympics, search for it. There's a little drop-down menu as well. And just start reading some great coverage. It's going to be really good. Even though, we don't have those NHL superstars we were hoping for, that actually probably gives us more intriguing storylines than if it was just, the superstar guys. There's a lot of fun backstories that we can learn over the next couple of weeks. So keep us in mind when you're looking to read up on the Olympics. So as always, we kind of start our show off with a look back at the week that was, and we had the All-Star break. So just the one game, and it was an ugly game, but it was an ugly game on an ugly day. This is our first chance to really get to talk about it. I know everything's kind of been said, but of course, last Wednesday, Blackhawks chairman, owner Rocky Wirtz had his ugly incident during that town hall meeting where he basically angrily told us that it was none of our business what the team is doing as regards to preventing another Kyle Beach situation, which was completely wrong. We've talked about it. It's been everywhere. We don't really need to go into that again. It's it was a sad situation. And the worst part about it was because you had Danny Wirtz and you had Jamie Faulkner who were winning that whole thing. They were great. Danny Wirtz, for the first time since he's really been in that position, impressed me. I've not been the biggest, I don't want to say fan, but when I looked at that whole situation, it's like more Wirtz nepotism in the Blackhawks. It's what this team has been based on since day one. And I didn't really give him much of a chance, but he was really thoughtful and sounded very smart and eager during his answers. And all of that was ruined the second old man Rocky just blew his top and started yelling at clouds. And it was a shame. And transparency. That's all they talked about after the report came out and the law case was settled. And yet they're not interested in that at all. And it was just proven yesterday when we learned that the former Rockford IceHogs athletic trainer DJ Jones was fired in November for a sexual harassment complaint about him. The complaint apparently came in the day after the report was released, and they investigated it and fired him just a couple of days later for an incident that happened in 2014. They did the absolute right thing, but why does it take an ESPN reporter digging around to find out about this? This should have been something they should have said, maybe timing, but at some point you need to, if you want to be transparent, you gotta be transparent and tell us this was something they did right. And even when they do things right, they still find a way to look bad doing it. So just a bad situation. And I think if this organization really wants to move forward, I think it has to do without Rocky Wirtz at being a part of it at this point. Let Danny have his moment in the sun and be the face and the true leader of this team. Otherwise, it's going to have that rocky sludge attached to it. Do we guys want to add to that, Gail? Do you have anything to say about that whole situation?
Yeah, actually, you just reminded me, and I haven't really had the chance to read it or verify it, but I think Frank Saravelli, I saw something where apparently a report that Danny Wirtz had a very emotional meeting with the Blackhawks staff the day afterwards, talking about how disappointed he was in his dad, and how can you really go against that? So there's that. And again, I just want to reiterate what you were talking about, where Danny and Jamie Faulkner were really crushing it, and he just ruined the whole thing. I mean, people were like, "Wow, they sound good. This is great. I like what they're saying." And then one more thing, this advisory board that's been hired for, to help with the GM hiring. You've got Patrick Sharp, Marian Hossa, and Eddie Olczak, who was actually there. I mean, how do you think they're feeling? They've agreed to do this, and now, you get thrown into the mud again. So it's just unfortunate all the way around.
Yeah, it's not a good situation, and it's not going to go away like they magically wanted to, or at least Rocky magically wanted to. Brooke, did you have any thoughts before we hopefully never have to talk about Rocky Wirtz again?
I hope so, but I think from what you guys were saying and kind of what I've been feeling is that honestly, my heart hurts so much because of the complete lack of empathy that was shown. And that really kind of just hurt my heart, because I feel like this whole thing kind of started by a lack of empathy, just by complete dismissiveness and just kind of the way Rocky reacted and stuff. That's the time as an owner where you should be reflective and say, I know what happened was wrong. And it just seemed like just more dismissiveness, like, well, we're moving past it, whatever, just like complete lack of regards for what Kyle Beach and the other victims are going through. It just, like I said, it hurts my heart to hear that. And that's really frustrating. And like I said, as an owner, that is just unacceptable. You need to have some type of empathy, sincerity to you. And he just didn't show that. So, and I know kind of how we all feel too about when this happened, our hearts are with Kyle Beach and the survivors still to this day and will continue to be.
And even if you don't feel that way, for goodness sake, don't they have PR people that are telling them what not to do that? It's just amazing to me that he snapped like that.
Right. And the scary thing is if he's snapping like that and cutting Danny down to a microscopic size in a public forum, what the hell's going on behind closed doors?
Yeah.
Like, and Brooke, to your point, what that lack of empathy and that dismissive, that's the exact attitude that got them in this mess in the first place. And it looks like nothing has changed. And I believe Danny and Jamie Faulkner when they say that they're trying to do these things, but it just gets destroyed. So maybe next time you want to have a town hall meeting, maybe you leave the old man home and send him to the golf course or whatever the hell he does for fun, and just not like, how did you not know that question was, and it wasn't even a question about 2010. It was a question about what are you doing going forward?
Yeah.
And they still haven't answered it. That's the other frustrating part. We're still waiting for the answer to that question. So yeah, it's just so frustrating and infuriating is a better word, not frustrating, infuriating. It's mad. As somebody who has supported this franchise since I was a kid, to watch it, continuously light itself on fire, it's maddening. Well, hopefully they won't be lighting themselves on fire with their next general manager. That was another big news story this week, as the general manager search has gotten in the high gear. They've interviewed now 5 candidates, as we learned earlier today. Of course, interim GM Kyle Davidson got an interview. They interviewed former Boston Bruins and Edmonton Oilers general manager Peter Chiarelli. Let's not go down that road. Hopefully that was just a favor as a friend. Scott Mellenby, who worked in the Canadiens front office until this past November. He's a popular future GM candidate. He got an interview. Eric Tulsky of the Carolina Hurricanes, assistant GM, he was the interview. And then for some reason, they interviewed Chicago Cubs assistant GM, Jeff Greenberg today. I don't know what that's about, but I guess it's okay to try and get as much input as you can when you're doing these things. My opinion, if those are your finalists and there's no one else, Eric Tulsky's the guy. He's the guy that needs to be hired. He's coming from an organization that he's worked with a long time that has a really good track record, the Carolina Hurricanes, of not only drafting, scouting, but developing young talent. Those are things the Blackhawks have not done under Stan Bowman. Developing young talent is the key, and that's why the Blackhawks are struggling. They don't have that pipeline. Look at the Carolina Hurricanes, the young talent they have on their roster now, and the young talent that keeps coming through. Their AHL team has been one of the best in the league. They won the Calder Cup, the AHL championship in 2019 when the Charlotte Checkers were their affiliate. The Chicago Wolves right here, they're their affiliate now, and they got one of the best records in the league. So it goes hand in hand. When the NHL team and the AHL team are both at the top of the standings in their respective leagues, that's a really good sign. And this is a guy that comes from that culture. He's got a good analytic brain too. He's my guy. Give me Eric Tulsky. If that's all it is, you guys know, I've said it before, Kevin Weeks is my, dream hire. The fact that it doesn't even sound like he's going to get an interview, my dream is crushed. So next up, Eric Tulsky. Brooke, did you have anything you wanted to add about the GM search?
I feel like the laughing and crying kid emoji is kind of what I feel like when I heard these names. It's like, oh, I feel like we're in trouble. I don't know. I'm not really excited about this. And I totally agree about Tulsky 100%. But the problem is I don't really trust the Blackhawks to make the right decision here. And I don't know why, but I'm a little bit scared. I do have a feeling they would pick someone like Peter Chiarelli, or I hope I'm saying his name right. But I had this kind of conversation with one of the people, one of my followers on Twitter. No offense to him. I'm sure he's a great guy. It's just more of like, just because of his personal track record, or his work track record, just I don't think that would be the right move. I feel like we'd be replacing a Stan Bowman with the types of moves he's made. But yeah, I'm kind of a little worried here. I'm not gonna lie, it's concerning.
Yes, you hit the nail right on the head there with that last statement, Brooke. Peter Chiarelli would essentially just be Stan Bowman part 2. It would be a lateral move. There'd be no difference. He's bad at salary cap management. He's bad at trades. Let's not go there again. Gail, what do you have to say about the GM search?
Well, you guys are just talking about these 5 candidates, and I'm wondering, at one point, Kevin Weeks, and I forget there was a couple other names out there. Do you think there's anybody that has just said, no, thanks? I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised. After last week, if I'm a hot GM candidate and the Blackhawks call me and that's what I see, an angry old man going to shout down every one of my decisions, I say thanks, but no thanks. And I take the next phone call. I would not surprise me one bit. In fact, I would be more surprised if they hadn't been turned down for interview requests at this point. So we'll see how it shakes out. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think a lot of people still think Kyle Davidson is just going to get the GM job and they're going through the motions. But I think Eric Tulsky would be a great move in the right direction. A fresh set of eyes, somebody who's never been connected with this organization to come in and make some hard decisions. That's what they need.
Agreed.
And the other big thing that happened this week was, of course, the All-Star game, the skills competition. A lot of fun over the weekend in Las Vegas, of course. Alex DeBrincat took part of it, and he had some fun with his skills challenge hangover theme, and he was very noticeable during the game itself. Gail, what do you want to mention about this year's All-Star game?
Yeah, let's move on to some fun stuff here, huh? It's been so difficult, and I think, honestly, I had to take a couple of days off after that town hall meeting, and so it was kind of a breath of fresh air to be like, okay, Alex DeBrincat, he's one of our favorite players, right? We love him. Okay, so like you said, he did the hangover thing. He had Derek Carr, the Las Vegas Raiders quarterback, giving him the assist there, so that was really fun. So I think he had some fun with that. It was creative, it was entertaining, and then, like you said, he did his part for the Central Division team. Okay, let's see, what did he do? 2, provided the secondary assist on Jordan Kyrou's goal, who, by the way, he seems pretty talented right there. 2 goals of his own, so it was 3-point effort in that first game. And then he also had a breakaway chance where he almost scored. It really kind of stunk because it was right there. And one of the Atlantic players like knocked it out, so he could have had another goal there. And then in the championship game, same thing. He almost scored at the very end, but they called it offside. So he had a lot of fun, and he actually had some nice chemistry there with the Wild youngster there, Kirill Kaprizov, and Brooke and I actually were on Twitter joking around with Mariah Holland. She writes for the Wild, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, we got to make a trade and get Kaprizov." Brooke, I don't think she really liked that too much. What do you think?
No. I was like, it's only fair, right, to have him come here and have him and to bring it play every day. It makes sense.
Yeah, she's like, no, to bring it to the Wild. Yeah, so
yeah.
Brooke, what did you think of the All-Star fun? That was definitely a lot of fun to watch. What were your takeaways?
Do you know what? Watching that made me sad from a Blackhawks standpoint, thinking of, oh my gosh, what talent like they're kind of missing out on, if that makes sense. Like I was thinking about like trade targets and stuff, and my eye was on Clayton Keller the whole time. I don't know what it is, but just someone like him, I feel like would be good for a rebuild. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Arizona has any intention of getting rid of him, but and still like Kaprizov and stuff. It's like, just watching them play, like I said, just made me upset a little bit. Like these people can score right in front of the net. They can get pucks on net. It was actually a beautiful sight in some way, but more upsetting because I kept thinking about trade targets the whole time, thinking about, okay, who in this group would be good on the Blackhawks. And honestly, anyone in that whole All-Star game would be good, but sad and fun at the same time.
Yes, it definitely showed that the Blackhawks have a long way to go to start getting back to where we want them to be. I'm going to step out of the box here and I'm going to complain about something. I know it's very rare for me on this show to gripe, but and listen, it's an all-star game. It's supposed to be fun. So in the spirit of that, why are we having offside reviews at a freaking all-star game? That is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Why are we taking goals off in an all-star game? Listen, get rid of offside rules and icing and all that nonsense at an all-star game. Just let the guys go skate and have fun. If a guy has his toe over the line, who gives a crap? I mean, I know the winning team is playing for $1 million or whatnot, but come on. Let no instant replays unless it's to make sure a goal was scored, because we had to have that too because they completely missed I forget whose game it was in the Central's first game. They completely missed somebody scoring, and then the other team went down and scored, but then they took that goal off and gave it. I forget was it Kyle Connor maybe or Nazem Kadri, one of those guys.
You're right. Mm-hmm.
So I'm fine with that, but to sit there and review because a guy had his toe over the line in an all-star game, give me a break. Like, again, just like the Blackhawks, when you do something right, you find a way to come off like an idiot. And that's what the league did with that stuff. Get rid of that. There's no need for it. And the other thing that annoyed me about the offsides, how come those took so little bit of time, but in the regular season, it takes like 8 minutes to figure out if a guy went offsides? Like, okay, obviously you guys can make up your mind pretty darn quick. Let's bring that offside review to the regular season. All right. Enough yelling about offsides and all-star game. I mean, really, of all the things to get my blood pressure up, that was not what I was expecting. But
see, it was upsetting. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. It was
stupid.
upsetting.
It was stupid. It was so stupid. It's an exhibition. Let the guys be off. Let the guys stand in front of the net the entire shift. Who cares? All right. Speaking of the All-Star game, for our preview post that you can head over to hockeywriters.com and check out, we decided to have a little fun and share our favorite Blackhawks related All-Star game memories. And speaking of breakaway challenges, Brooke, you wanted to talk about a famous one from one Mr. Patrick Kane.
I feel like every week I'll have a new theme of something because I seem like I talk about things kind of in waves. So this will be fun and upsetting. That's my theme of this week. But that's what I thought about Patrick Kane's breakaway goal as my memory, because one, it was actually the one memory that I can really remember as a hockey fan from when I first started. So that's kind of one that came to my mind just because I remember it the best. But just it's Patrick Kane, like him and his Superman breakaway goal. I mean, that's just him, right? And then I kind of mean upsetting in a way of Marian Hossa being there, giving him the cape and stuff. It's like, the nostalgia, the memories, that kind of thing. I know, right? I was like, but yeah, like I said, that was just so him. And that was such a fun moment. And he kind of showed, even for someone, if you don't know hockey that much, it's fun. Like, like hockey is fun. And that just kind of adds more fun to the game. And that's what I love about it. And I loved it because it was so him. So that's the first memory that came to my mind. And I still think it's one of the best memories of the Blackhawks at the All-Star game.
For sure. And I'm a big fan of the Breakaway Challenge because I love the fact that they're allowing these guys to show off their personalities and be creative. That they need more of that. They need more of these young kids like Trevor Zegras and these guys to be themselves and be fun and have a good time and have personality. Hockey players are robots half the time. They spit out the same 3 cliches. And now this is a chance for them to show who they really are. And I think that's a lot of fun. And the league needs more stuff like that to get these personalities of these up and coming stars out there and build on them, become faces of this franchise, marketable, get more people excited about hockey. Gail, you're going to bring us back to one of my favorite All-Star game, quote unquote, fiascos of all time. What was your Blackhawks related memory, Gail?
So I'd like to take us back to 2016 All-Star festivities. This is actually the first time that they did the 3-on-3 format because they were actually trying to figure out a way to kind of provide a spark. It was getting to be kind of a stagnant competition, but that wasn't even the main thing obviously that was pretty exciting. But the thing that made it a success in my mind was that there was the fan vote, and kind of on a lark, the fans decided, let's vote in John Scott. Well, John Scott's not an all-star. He is a known enforcer, right? And so then the NHL league is like, well, we can't do that. So they tried to find a loophole to get around it. So they traded him, then they sent him down to the AHL, and then everybody pitched a fit. So eventually they had to let him play after all. And then the players pretty much took care of it from there. The players were like, he's one of ours. And they could have totally embraced this. The NHL could have totally embraced this and said, you know what? John Scott is the best at his craft. He's the best at being an enforcer. He's the best at being a goon. And you know what? There's a place for everybody and everything. This is a team. And John Scott is a member of a team. So you don't just do that to him. But the players took care of it, and they had tons of fun. And then there was, I'm bringing this in because he played for, I think it was only for just one season for the Chicago Blackhawks, but he's known to be a really good, fun teammate. And Patrick Kane had some fun with him. There was breakaway the one way and a hit, and John Scott hit him, totally hit, not really. And then Kane scored the other way, and then they got into a little fake play fight. So I thought that was pretty cool. And it was just, the guys having fun. And then he actually was the MVP, voted the MVP. So it was just a feel-good story all the way around, and a good festivities.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of when plans backfire and chaos, and that was just great how hockey Twitter made sure it happened. And even when something fun and a good story happens again, the NHL found a reason to screw it up. And then they went out and had fun and was the MVP. That was a great story. My memory goes back. I'm going to go way back. I'm going to go to the 90s. Weird. But when the Blackhawks hosted the NHL All-Star game in 1991 at the old Chicago Stadium, this was like the height of like my Blackhawks obsession when I really, really was getting into it. I think I was in the 6th grade when this happened. So, it was all about Chris Chelios and Ed Belfort, Steve Larmer, and those teams are great. So the Blackhawks got the host of the All-Star game, but just a couple of days before the game took place, if you remember, that's when we started Operation Desert Storm in the Persian Gulf, and we went to war. And it was a much different time back then, to where maybe it was just because I was younger and I didn't pay attention, but it just, something like that actually brought the country together, as opposed to like a lot of the division we're used to today. People were proud and were patriotic, and people were tying yellow ribbons around their trees, and it was just a sense of, hey, we got to come together to get over this. And then Wayne Messmer stood to the microphone and started the anthem. I wanted to go to this game so bad. It was like the one thing I wanted to do, and there was no way my dad was going to be able to get tickets. So I remember sitting watching it on TV, and of course the Blackhawks anthem everybody knows that tradition, but it got kicked up like 20 notches that day. There were so many American flags in the crowd. People were crying. The pride and the patriotism was coming out. You could just feel it through the TV, watching it at home. Like, it gave me goosebumps as a 12-year-old. It was special. And people still talk about it today. The players that were standing on the ice, like Wayne Gretzky, they even still talk about that moment. And it's something that always stuck with me. And before there was Jim Corneliuson, who does a great job, there was Wayne Messmer. He did it for years too, and that's probably one of his career highlights. And then you could still go see Wayne Messmer. He still sings the national anthem before every Chicago Wolves game. And they play the Ice Hogs on Saturday. You can go see Lucas Reichel in Chicago Saturday night. You can say hello to me. I'll be there. So go see Wayne and Lucas on Saturday. It'll be a lot of fun.
I do watch that actually periodically on YouTube, the anthem, and you're right. I kind of live vicariously through that too. Like, I wasn't even born when that happened, but I so wish I could have seen that too.
I'm not going to tell you how old I was, but I remember watching it on TV as well, and I thought it was pretty cool.
I forget we're dealing with a puppy here and young Miss Laforno. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Sorry about that.
It wasn't all the gray in my beard that made me feel old this morning. You just made it even worse.
But I wanted to say, for the viewers that are watching, if you want a serotonin boost, Google it on YouTube and watch it. It will just immediately lift your spirits and have you smiling the whole time.
It's true.
All righty. Well, before we get into our last two topics about looking ahead, just want to remind everybody to check out that Olympic coverage over at thehockeywriters.com. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a whole slew of great writers covering both the women's and the men's tournament. Men's tournament is getting underway here late night Wednesday. The men get kicked off. So Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, depending on what time zone you're in. So set your DVRs. There's going to be a lot of really good hockey, and the Hockey Writers will have it covered. Really excited about what's going on. I was thrilled when the powers that be asked me to kind of spearhead and lead the men's coverage. So I'm really excited what's going to come out on the site over the next couple of weeks. So please make sure you're checking us out over at thehockeywriters.com and search for all that great Olympic coverage. So we'll move on to, usually this is our third topic we talk about. This is where we do like player recognition, either good or bad. Talk about somebody that impressed us or got under our skin the past week. But since we only had one actual Blackhawks game, we're going to use this time to name a player that we want to see more of or more out of during the rest of the season. And the Blackhawks have a chance for some young guys to get some playing time here, especially after the trade deadline, which they should be very active at. So Gail, who is it that you want to see have a big second half with the Blackhawks?
Okay, I'm pinpointing defenseman Wyatt Kalynuk today. He's actually currently on the roster and played the last game against the Wilds. He was on the third pairing with Gustafsson, 953 TOI, but he registered 4 hits in that time. And he suited up for 5 contests this season. But last season is really kind of where he stood out. He played in 21 games and recorded 4 goals and 9 points. And he was one of those prospects that kind of stood out to be responsible defensively, but then step into the play and contribute offensively as well. And actually this time last year was really kind of when he was coming out of his shell. He was behind in the depth chart behind Ian Mitchell and Nicholas Bodine. And they kind of both got their shots. And then Kalynuk came in and pretty much played the rest of the season. So he's getting his chance again. Hopefully, I'd like to see him playing. He also, we all know that Gustafsson probably is not a part of the Blackhawks' future. He was kind of just signed on as a stopgap because of injuries. But Kalynuk has taken that spot on the second power play unit as the kind of the quarterback there. And I'd like to see some of that happening and just see him get to play and see him prove himself, because I think he's definitely going to be a part of the Blackhawks' future as a solid and stable defenseman.
For sure. Yeah, I think he's got a nice future ahead of him. For selfish reasons, I want him to stay in Rockford as long as possible, but get him some Blackhawk time and then send him back for that hopeful playoff run that the Ice Hogs are going to have.
Well, and he's doing pretty well, isn't he? Every time I see highlights, he's
he's been very effective in Rockford. They use him in a lot. He's a quarterback of their top power play unit when he's down there, and he does a really good job with it. And he's always on their top pairing, plays big minutes, and that's important. There's a lot to be said of playing those types of roles at the AHL level as opposed to just 11 or 12 minutes at the NHL level. So yes, I'd like to see more of him one way or the other this second half. I like where he's headed. Brooke, who do you want to see more of post All-Star break?
Everyone. I want everyone to step up and do something. I know that's not a correct answer though, but it seems like we're kind of on a theme of defensemen here. And my first thought was actually Caleb Jones. That was the first player that came to my mind, and I don't know why, but he kind of started out pretty strong, like kind of really made a name for himself to start the year. And everyone was like, whoa, we might have gotten a steal from the Oilers. And then he kind of dipped off a little bit. He's been healthy scratched a lot lately. He hasn't really put together a bunch of good games lately. And kind of like what Ben Pope, who writes for the Chicago Sun-Times for the Blackhawks, he kind of wrote a thing about how Caleb Jones right now isn't presenting a strong case for why he should be a regular defenseman in the lineup. So he's kind of been in and out, some good, some bad. So I hope he has a good second half, and he's going to have to earn it, I think, because Kalynuk, like you said, is going to be making strides and stuff. So I think he's the one that needs to have a big second half. He kind of needs to prove that he can be a regular, especially with Riley Stillman out, and he probably will be coming back pretty soon.
Yeah, I think we're seeing kind of what has been plaguing him his whole career so far. Even his time with the Oilers, he just couldn't seem to stay consistent. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, at some point that light bulb has to go off or it's time to move on. But I definitely, it's been a tough season. He's had injuries and all that other stuff. And it's just been another one of these weird seasons. It's been hard to get into any kind of rhythm. So hopefully he can stay in the lineup. And again, as we get past that trade deadline, hope there should be some more roster spots open up, some more ice time available. And hopefully he takes advantage of that and makes the most of it. Player I want to see more of this second half when he comes back, and this is kind of an ode to our buddy Sean. I got to talk about a goaltender. We need to have goalie talk, or it's not an official Blackhawks banter episode. But I want to see more Kevin Lankinen. We got to get him some more time. And listen, Kevin Lankinen, we don't know if he's going to be part of the long-term future. We know Marc-Andre Fleury isn't. We love Marc-Andre Fleury, but it wasn't going to happen beyond this year, no matter what. And personally, I think we are seeing too much of Marc-Andre Fleury. It's starting to affect his game. He has not been nearly as sharp as he was, just about a month ago. He's been playing a lot. We're starting to see the frustrated Marc-Andre Fleury that we saw in the first month of the season. Maybe it's time to pull him back a little bit, keep him fresh. If this is the guy that's your only chance to get back into the first round of the draft this summer, maybe don't play him as much. Don't wear him down. Don't get him injured. Yeah. Keep him fresh. Keep that trade value high. Let's see what Kevin Lankinen gets back. He should be back from his hand injury in another week or two. Let him play. Let him get, at least half of the starts going forward. And then when Marc-Andre Fleury gets moved to another team, then he's your guy. He's your number one. Let him get the bulk of the starts. It doesn't matter what the results are. We want to see the progress. We want to see the development. If Kevin Lankinen is the guy that's going to be manning that crease going forward, now is the time to find out what we have. So more Kevin Lankinen. Yes, I know Marc-Andre Fleury is a very popular player. We all love him, but let's see a little bit less of him for many reasons, and more of Kevin Lankinen when he's healthy.
Well, and Lankinen's it's not doing him any good sitting on a bench. I think from my last article, I saw he's only played 13 games so far this year out of 46. It's not doing his development any good to sit there.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a future with this team. Marc-Andre Fleury unfortunately doesn't. It's just the way it is. And it's time to go with the guy that may be here after this season. All right, that's it. Let's have some fun. It's the shootout round. It's our final round topic of the show. We always like to wrap up with our shootout round where I'll ask some rapid fire questions And we'll just come up with some fun answers as we look ahead to kind of sort of busy week. At least the NHL will be back. The Blackhawks will have 2 games before we get back together next week and talk more hockey. Both on the road, Wednesday night at the Oilers and Saturday night at those hated, cheating St. Louis Blues. So 2 games, 4 points on the line. How many points do we think they're going to earn? Brooke?
I'm going to say 2. I think they're going to beat the Oilers because their goaltending stinks.
Gail, what do you have for a point prediction?
Yeah, I'm going with 2 as well. I really hope that there's going to be a win at some point around here.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go 0 just because, I mean, it's been pretty brutal lately. And the last time the Blackhawks were in Edmonton, they stunk out the joint.
Yeah, we did.
So, but then the last time they were in Edmonton, like the next night they were in St. Louis and they played really well, or whatever. Yeah. I don't know if that was right after each other. It seems to be, but so who knows? So I say 0, which means it will probably be 4, just the way these things go.
I hope we're all wrong.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes. The 2 games before the All-Star break, as I said, they weren't very good. They scored a total of just 1 goal, and they were probably lucky to get that one. So how many goals do you think they're going to score in these 2 games this week? Just a quick little prediction. Gail?
All right. So I think I would like to see them lighten up on this low event hockey stuff and let them do a little bit more run and gun, let them get some confidence, let them score some goals. I don't care if it goes the other way, back at them. With that said, 7 goals. They're going to get 7 goals.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. Brooke, what's your prediction?
My thought was 5. I think they're going to score at least 3 against the Oilers because, again, their goaltending stinks. And I think they might get at least 2 in St. Louis. So maybe that's generous, but we'll see. Okay.
Brooke is telling us the Oilers goaltending stinks. So I'm going to go down to the casino and place a big bet on an Oilers shutout.
Bet on it. Bet on it.
With the Nashville Predators theory. Yeah, I'm going to go with 4, 2 in each game. They'll score 2 in each game.
Oh, that was optimistic for you.
So I can totally rub it in if it's actually more than 5 next week. And then of course you guys can give me crap if it's
Absolutely. I plan on it. All right. So we got our predictions for goals. Who's going to lead the team in points this week? Brooke, you got 5 goals being scored. Who's leading the team in points?
Patrick Kane.
Gail, who's scoring all 7 of those goals this week?
Last week I went with DeBrincat. So I'm going to do the same thing this week. Not DeBrincat. I'm going to do the same as Brooke and say Kane because I think that he's going to have a bit of a chip on his shoulder from not playing for a while and not being in the All-Star game.
Okay. I'm going to say the 4 goals, Dylan Strom's going to pick up a couple assists on the Alex DeBrincat goals and then get one himself. So I think Dylan Strome will get 3 points out of those 4 goals and lead the team.
Nice. Wow, nobody said Seth Jones, huh?
Yeah. I was about to say Murphy because the defensemen are being weird lately with goals.
You never know.
It's true. Speaking of defensemen, we're going to see our old buddy Duncan Keith on Wednesday. He's been playing a significant role for those Oilers. Not as big as a role as he had been with the Blackhawks, but still a pretty key player to their team. Do we think he's going to get any points against his former team? If so, how many? Gail, do you think Keith is going to come back to haunt us on Wednesday?
I do. I think he's going to get a point, but just one, like an assist or something. Maybe.
Brooke, what do you think we're going to see out of good old number 2?
Yeah, I think it's going to be 1, and I think it would be on the power play.
Yeah, I'll go at 1 point. I think he'll get a secondary assist somewhere. He'll touch a puck and get credit for an assist. I'll go with that. That's a safe bet. All right, our final round of the shootout. We've been telling you all night, all day, morning, afternoon, whenever you're listening to this, about our men's Olympic tournament coverage, and that tournament is starting Wednesday night, late Wednesday night. I think 11 o'clock our time, Chicago time, is the first game. I know we're all excited to watch Team USA and Blackhawks goaltending prospect Drew Commesso, But is there another former Blackhawk or NHL player you're excited to see play? Brooke, what are you looking forward to with the Olympics?
Actually, Marcus Kruger, because he kind of fell off the face of the earth after they traded him, and I haven't seen him in a long time. So I would say him. I'd be interested to see what he's up to lately.
Gail, who do you want to check out during these Olympics?
Before I was David Camp's agent, I was Marcus Kruger's agent. He's the same kind of, same kind of mold. But since you went with Kruger, I'm going to say, or you remember Michael Frolik too. He was on that same line with Kruger, and they did some damage together as that shutdown pair. So Team Czechia, right? That's how we say it now.
Czechia.
Czechia. Keep an eye out for Michael Frolik.
Yeah, those are definitely good choices. I loved Marcus Kruger. I loved Michael Frolik. So I'll just say I'll go with another guy. Artem Anisimov. He's going to be playing for Russia or ROC, whatever they want to be called. They're the defending gold medalist team. They won the gold in the last Olympics. Veteran presence. He's back in the KHL this year. So, I always liked Anisimov. He wasn't the dynamic player that, many had hoped for, but, he was really good at standing at the front of the net, let pucks hit him and score goals. So, that works. You can make a lot of money. He's living proof by just letting puck hit you and go into the net. So Artie party for Russia. That's what I want to see. Let's go crazy with some Artie Anisimov. The Olympics should be fun. It's not the star power. It's not the glitz and the glamour, but there's a lot of cool stories. And yeah.
Wait, yeah. I'm sorry. Somebody might know this, and I'll have to look it up if we don't. But does anybody know if Dominic Cahoon, remember him?
Yes, he's on Germany. He is on Germany's team.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, I'm rooting for him too.
Okay, cool. All
right, yes, little Dominic Cahoon. Sweden has Lucas Wallmark, and there's another guy. It's head over to hockeywriters.com and check out that 5 reasons for Blackhawks and Ice Hogs fans to watch, because all those guys are listed there.
I'm excited now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's lots of familiar faces, more than we probably expected. So again, check out the hockeywriters.com for all that great Olympic coverage. You won't miss a beat. You won't miss any of the action from our former Blackhawks and Ice Hogs. And that's going to wrap up another fantastic episode of Blackhawks Banter. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Thanks to Gail and Brooke, as always, for another great chat. Look forward to doing this again next week. And until then, everybody, please be safe, and we'll catch you next week on Blackhawks Banter.